Live from the chicken wing capital of the world, Buffalo, New York. You're listening to the Childcare Bridge Podcast, your source for the best tips, tools, and tactics on how to market and grow your childcare center, ensuring total domination. Total domination. This is the Childcare Bridge, and this is your host, Michael Tasner.
Hey there, and welcome to the first episode of the new year of the Childcare Bridge. I hope you had a wonderful New Year's celebration, that you had some time off between the holidays. I know that childcare centers historically do not close very much, but I hope that you, as the owner, have set up systems and processes to where you can, at the very least, take a couple of days off to relax during that holiday time. Today, I wanted to address a topic that I probably have been avoiding with childcare center owners. And I've been reflecting over the last couple of weeks as to why have I been ignoring the particular topic? Why have I been going easy on the topic? And I think that's because in general, this industry tends to be a little bit softer. I mean, we're working with children day in and day out. So it doesn't lend itself to be an industry where like it's cutthroat and like you really have to be firing on all cylinders all the time. However, I'm a realist and I love to look at data. And the data is showing that there's going to probably be another 30 to 50,000 childcare centers that shutter their doors this year. 30 to 50,000 childcare centers gone like that. And when I've started to look at why some of these centers are closing, it takes me down a little bit of a rabbit hole. And usually the rabbit hole winds up at one of three places. In no particular order, but I'm going to circle back in just a minute. Place number one is that they retire. They say, it's been fun, it's been real, I did this for 30 years, 50 years, whatever amount the time is, done, retiring, closing our doors, donezo. Number two, they run out of capital and realize they just can't make it work. They went in too much debt, they're not making enough money. Something on the financial end is the reason they close. And the third reason is burnout. They just get massively burned out and come to realize that if you do not have certain things set up, this industry will literally eat you for breakfast. Like, it is not for the faint of heart. Like, people talk about how the restaurant industry is so challenging and tough. And yes, it is a tough industry. It has the highest failure rate. 50% of restaurants in year one close. Within 5 years, it's either like 90 or 95% of restaurants are closed. So at least 1 in 10 within 5 years continue to stand the test of time. The other 9 gone. And if you start to think about it, in the restaurant space, think about it in your industry, think about that negative cascading effect that happens if you had to close your doors. Think about it and say, well, it would be bad because all these families wouldn't have anywhere to go that they're going to love. Okay, that's one thing. Think about the 25 others. What about you and your financials? What about you and your family? What about you and your kids? So what is that going to do to your family unit? Look at every single one of your team members. What is it going to do to their finances? And then their family lifestyles. Think about all the vendors that you work with, all the different people that you're working with on a regular basis. Now, they might not close up shop because they lost you as a client. However, they're going to suffer because you went out of business. All those families that we talked about initially, all the kids, their family dynamics. Well, what if the parents then have to take a bunch of time off, or one of the parents has to quit or leave their job to now handle the childcare? Now, what does that do on the financial side? Think about all the money that you and your team invest in the community and all those other businesses that you frequent. Like, it has this ridiculous cascading effect all over the place. And it's a massive negative cascading effect. So what I need you to do is to understand that there is a much bigger kind of animal at play here. Like, it's big game. We're playing in the big leagues. This is serious stuff. My main marketing agency is called No Joke Marketing. And everyone's like, well, why do you name it that? Because this is not for people that want to just kind of play around. Like, it is the most, and especially marketing, the most important aspect to business. So now that I've hopefully given you a little bit of a wake-up call, and so, geez, what if you do go out of business? That's a huge thing. And I can tell you that I've been studying this for going on 5+ years. So I've been in the industry for, quite a while and been doing marketing since I was 15, so 25 years. But I've been studying, in particular, small business failure at a extreme level of detail for over 5 years. It was my master's dissertation. And what I looked at was all those cascading effects that we talked about. But even more so, I looked at, could these businesses have been saved? Could they have been saved? And the answer, in 87% of the businesses that I studied, and I studied almost 300, so 87%, the answer was yes. You might say, well, Michael, what about the other 13%? Well, the other 13%, there's a lot of different factors, but some of them were just, they started businesses that really didn't have any kind of marketplace need. Others, there were insane factors that resulted in them going out of business. So usually it was lawsuits or fraud, partners stealing, like crazy things. But 87% of the ones that went out of business, based on me going through everything in a methodical, strategic, non-biased way, we realized that there was one fundamental area that they didn't focus enough on. And had they focused enough on this one area, their business would have stood the test of time. So what I'm going to teach you throughout this year is this framework that I've came up with called MAST. You might say, well, why did I pick MAST? Well, a few reasons. Number one, I like things that you can remember. I want you to be able to easily remember it so that when you're thinking strategically about your business, when you're thinking about it, you're going to be able to remember this framework and start to laser in on one of the areas that you need to focus on. Number two is that I am a big fan of having a word that actually means something. So the mast is one of the most important aspects to the ship because it holds up the sail and or multiple sails. Without sails on a ship, you're kind of doomed a little bit. Like, it's kind of tough to have that ship be moving and staying on course without sails. Everything falls apart. So I wanted something that I could visually start to see. Now, the other thing that I'm a big fan of is words and phrases that, again, they have meanings, but they also have a bigger vision. So one of the things that I've talked a lot about is this concept called fortune maps. And to me, a fortune map is a step-by-step process that takes you from one area, so like things are terrible and you're struggling, to the other side with the pot of gold and the rainbow to where things are amazing. Like a treasure hunt, for example. But a step-by-step map to guide you to fortune. And that ties in a fun way with ships and kind of all of that cool stuff. So this MAST framework stands for marketing, accounting, strategy and systems, and team. Marketing, accounting, strategy and systems, and team. Without these four areas working on all cylinders, firing on all cylinders, it's going to be very, very challenging for you to stand the test of time this year. And I would argue close to impossible. Now, there is some good news. When I looked at all of those businesses that went under, the one thing that could have saved 87% of them was marketing. You might say, well, Michael, how could that be true? Pause for 1 second and think about what drives your centers. What drives your center and centers are the enrollments, the families, the kids. They provide you tuition, which then in turn you use to pay your team, your vendors, your salary, your bills, your rent or lease, all that good stuff. Everything comes from that. You might say, well, Michael, isn't that the accounting? No, the accounting side is being able to look at the ratios, understand what they mean, better maximize things, and not just cut expenses. I can tell you an ungodly amount of time the questions that I get around, what should we cut? You know, we can cut unnecessary things, but a perfect example. I got an email I think yesterday, it came in yesterday, wasn't looking at my email on New Year's Day, but the email said something to the extent of, what do the marketing services cost because I have a very strict budget I need to adhere to? And I can tell you that just in reading that email, without even replying, that they're not a fit for what we do, and it's just not going to work. There's a lot of mindset tweaks that need to happen first, but the issue that I'm continuing to see day in and day out is that you're focusing on everything else instead of marketing. Everything else. You're focused on everything with the team. And yes, the team is extremely important. But if you don't have enough enrollments, you're going to be massively overstaffed. You're not going to have profitable ratios. That's going to throw off all the money. You're going to make less money, and it's that cycle there. It stems back to the enrollments. How do you get more enrollments? By investing more money in time and money in marketing. You invest time, money, resources in marketing. That is how you generate more enrollments. So you need to start finding a way to take some things off of your plate right out of the gates in 2025 so that you can start to focus on marketing. Now, the spoiler alert is that I've only seen one center in 10 to 15 years that was able to do their marketing in-house. Childcare centers, regardless of how large you are, they're not able to do their marketing in-house. Even the big box franchises. I will not name them, but I can tell you that when I have been approached by franchisees to say, we don't have enough enrollments to pay the bills, we go through and we audit and analyze what the franchisor is doing or the vendors that they have to work with, and they're just not doing enough. Plain and simple. They're just not doing enough marketing by way of time, creativity, resources to win. It's just not going to happen. So if you know that the magical secret sauce to you dominating 2025 and beyond, to you getting to a place where you can open more and more locations, you can have the most profitable ratios, you can finally take home the pay that you deserve, the profits that you deserve. If you know that the secret sauce is marketing, then why are you continuing to not put your money where your mouth is, not put your time to where you know it needs to go? You need to make a fundamental shift to know that your entire business is driven through marketing. And that's not word of mouth marketing. That's one small aspect, but all of the other avenues. Parents finding out about you through 100 different sources, the way you're communicating on a regular basis to parents, the way you're communicating to people that have raised their hand, your ability to conduct what I call a multi-million-dollar tour, like the best tour, your referral campaigns, your website, signage, like all of those different things. If I'm telling you that a lot of centers are going to go out of business this year, and that I've studied small business failure, and that 87% of the businesses that went under could have been saved had they focused on marketing by way of time and money, that is where I need you to spend a lot more of your time and a lot more of your money this year. And you need to get that fundamental belief out there that you can't afford it, because everything ends up becoming a math equation. So I'm going to leave you with this little aspect to think about. And I know that I'm coming in hot in 2025, but I am sick and tired of center after center calling and saying, we need help, and then we quote a ridiculously small amount of money for them to get started and move the needle, and then they ghost us. And they ghost us not because they don't feel that we can help or that we don't have the authority. I mean, we've got the largest agency in this space. We've been doing it the longest, proven results, the lowest investment, the most amount of stuff that you get for your investment. Like, it's not even close. But they still have it in their brains that they can't afford it. And what I've realized and come to realize is that they don't understand marketing math. So here is the concept that I want to leave you with today, among everything else that I've just shared. Your childcare business can be boiled down to a math equation. Let's say that you have 3 locations at 100 capacity each. Simple math, okay? Let's say that each of those is currently at 50% capacity, 50 enrollments at each. You've got 150 enrollments. You've got capacity for 300. Let's also say that your tuition is $250 a week or $1,000 a month. Again, simple math. So you're pulling in $150,000 a month. Your top area would be $300,000 a month. So the first thing is that I would say you have a $150,000 a month problem. $150,000 a month problem. That's a big problem. Now, the other thing that I would tell you is that you don't have just a $150,000 a month problem. You have, at the very least, a $1.5 million problem, because these families on the low side should be staying for 10 months. The average family stays for 20 months. So you have between a $1.5 and a $3 million problem right now. When you start to think about it like that, I hope that it starts to shift you a little bit to where, well, geez, I didn't realize it was that large. Like, wow, this is, and you're worried about investing $5,000 a month when you've got a $1.5 million problem? Think about that. That to me is more, you don't have the confidence in yourself, in your offerings. So when you boil this to that math equation, all that we have to do is figure out a few very simple ratios and a few very simple numbers. Number one, what does it cost us to get a lead? Someone to raise their hand. How many of those leads does it take to get a tour? How many tours does it take to get one enrollment? When you understand those numbers, it simply becomes marketing math. How do you do that? Well, if we know that for every 10 leads that come in, we're going to get 3 tours, and one of those will turn into an enrollment. And let's say, just for kicks, that those 10 leads are $100 a lead. Simple math. So $1,000, you got 3 tours, 1 enrollment. So it cost you $1,000 to get that enrollment. Now, that doesn't mean that the other 2 are not going to enroll. Doesn't mean that the other 7 people that didn't come in for a tour won't come in. But if we're looking at the math with tunnel vision as to what happened right now, that would be the metric. So you just acquired 1 enrollment for $1,000. Now that might take you a month or 2 to get back in green and in profitability, because you probably don't make 100% on that enrollment. But in some cases you do, because your ratios aren't maximized. You can add one particular family in. So that month 1, they pay you the $1,000, the $250 a week. It just paid for your marketing investment for that one particular enrollment. Month 2, now you're really crushing it. So why wouldn't you then invest $10,000, $15,000 if you know that you can boil it down to a math equation to fill those ratios that you need? It's very, very simple. Very, very simple. You need to understand that your center in 2025 and beyond needs to focus on marketing. Needs to focus on marketing. Next week, I'm going to talk about some of the hot trends, other things that I'm seeing in this particular industry that you're going to have to be aware of. But I wanted to ingrain in my first episode of the year, not just the importance, but if you do not do this, you are done. Because when I talk about trends and competition, it is growing at a rate that you don't even realize. There are franchises coming up left and right. There are private equity businesses that are buying up all the small mom and pops that are making big conglomerates that you don't even know about. And I promise you that they understand marketing math. And I promise you they're going to outspend you. And they're going to start grabbing those enrollments before you do. The good news is that you're listening to this show. I've got your back, and I'm going to make sure that you stand the test of time for as long as you want to be in this industry, and ideally be able to pass it down to someone else or to sell it and have a nice payday. Michael Tasner signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Welcome to 2025. Let's kick some butt.